Sayyid Nizamuddin Ahmad, and this is a video which is introducing my Patreon page. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about myself, my background, my education, and what I'm offering on Patreon. So I have a Ph.D. in Islamic studies as well as an MA in the same from Princeton University. Before that, I obtained an MA in the Arabic language from Indiana University in Bloomington. And between that study at Indiana University and at Princeton, I also spent 2 years in Cairo working on my Arabic, where I was studying in a program for non-native speakers of Arabic to learn Arabic, which was done at the American University in Cairo in conjunction with something called CASA, which at the time, Center for Arabic Study Abroad, was administered through Johns Hopkins. And before that, I had my first degree in mathematics, a Bachelor of Science degree from Purdue University. In addition to that, I've had a wide range of experiences. I've lived all over the world, working and teaching at different institutions. I taught, my first teaching job, in fact, was at the University of Texas at Austin. And then after I got my PhD, I went to teach in Malaysia for a few years at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilisation. After that, I was there for about 3 years, and after that I taught for about 5 years at the American University in Sharjah, where I was in the Department of Arabic, what was called Arabic and International Studies at the time. And finally, I ended up at the American University in Cairo, where I was in the Department of Arab Studies, and I taught there for about 7 years. So I've had, a very wide range of teaching experiences all over the world, and I also have traveled throughout the Muslim world. I've done research in different manuscript libraries in Oxford, in London at the British Library. Oxford would be the Bodleian Library. Number of library collections in Istanbul that are housed in the Süleymaniye, as well as in the Bayezid Mosque Library. And I've also done research in India and Pakistan, Malaysia. I even made several extended visits to Japan, researching my interests. My interests are really spread over basically the religious and philosophical systems of the world and languages. And because, to really learn about these different systems, you have to learn languages, and I've managed to learn several. But Arabic is my strongest, and that's where my main interest lies. Now, one of the reasons I'm making this channel is that the kind of education and experiences that I've had, I was very privileged in that regard. And, not that those kind of experiences are not really available to everyone. And there are plenty of people who have curiosity and they want to learn, but these kind of things are not accessible to them. So my goal in this channel is to offer top-notch content which covers these kind of areas. That covers the areas of philosophy, comparative philosophy, Islamic esoterica, traditional Islamic religious sciences, even astrology, mysticism, the occult, another big interest of mine, and maybe even some elements of mathematics, especially as they relate to the occult, traditional or symbolic Pythagorean kind of mathematics. Now, I already have a really wide range of content covering these areas on my YouTube channel, which you can find just by searching on YouTube, on Google, under my name, Sayyid Nizamuddin Ahmad. The link will be posted. So I'm basically going to develop these kind of things further on this channel. So there will be, of course, 3 tiers, as there usually are on Patreon. And I'm just going to talk briefly about those 3 tiers and what you get. And of course, this will also be in the About section on the Patreon page. And of course, in the very main body of the Patreon page where you go, all of these things will be explained in detail. So I'll just run through it very quickly. So you've got tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 is at $5 a month. And for that, you get access to my monthly blog, which is going to be entitled Aeterna Sapientia, as well as my office hours video series, which will be a weekly series in which I answer your questions. Your questions is just like an office hours with your professor. So those will be viewer-generated questions, which can be submitted via email, which is inquiries of Dr. Ahmad at gmail.com. And you can also be sent through my Facebook account or even through the comment section on YouTube. And you'll also have access to my video series on magic squares, which I'm going to continue. It's available on YouTube from the 3x3, and 4x4, and the 5x5, but then I'm going to go further with the 6x6, and eventually we'll probably go up to maybe the 12x12, do some large size ones, maybe, double digits, maybe something like a 25x25, and then the grand finale, the season finale, will be the 100x100, but it's going to take a while to get there. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 is at $10 a month, and that gets you everything in tier 1, plus early access to my monthly podcast. There's 2 of them. One is called Kashkool, Colloquia Islamica. Kashkool is a word used in Islamic languages that refers to a kind of begging bowl, but it eventually took on the meaning of a kind of miscellany. And Colloquia Islamica conveys that idea that it'll just be various conversations relating to different aspects of Islamic studies, and we may also have guests on different topics as they arise. The other one is Red Sulphur, and the Red Sulphur podcast is going to be devoted to traditional esoterica. And these will be released on Patreon first, and then a couple of weeks later, they'll be released on YouTube. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you will have privileged early access to those. Tier 3 at $20 a month will get you everything in tiers 1 and 2, plus exclusive access to my in-depth video series on topics in Islamic traditional Islamic sciences. And the first of these will be devoted to metaphysics under the title To Be or Not to Be, an Introduction to Islamic Metaphysics. And the second is a kind of historical series, which I'm going to be putting together in the coming weeks, which is going to be entitled How the Sunnis Became Sectarian, and it's intended to be an in-depth historical analysis of how Sunni Islam emerged. I'll have regular updates, announcements on all of these series on my social media accounts, and so please do stay tuned so that you can be up to date on all of these. Thank you.